Let's be real. Nobody ever dreams of moving to the wild edge of Arizona just to wind up in a low-key war with the local HOA queen, but that's exactly how my story went down. You want to hook picture this 200 a.m. I'm bleeding on my own porch, my ribs screaming, all because I asked my neighbor to keep the party down. Yeah, that's how suburban peace dies, one drunken punch at a time. My name's Luke Havel, and if you've ever wondered how far a quiet ex-Navy intel guy will go to defend his land, you're about to find out. See, after 20 years of military service, most of it spent listening to the hum of machinery and the bark of superiors, I was done with chaos, done with people breathing down my neck. All I wanted was a patch of earth far from HOA nonsense, somewhere my coffee wouldn't taste like city exhaust, and I could sleep with the windows open, no one telling me what shade my mailbox had to be. So I bought myself some land right on the edge of Apache County, where my only neighbors were a few scattered jackrabbits. And unfortunately, the Ridgeview HOA. Their president, Karen Schules, ran her HOA like a fiefdom clipboard always in hand, eyes like daggers, voice pitched somewhere between a drill sergeant and a bad Yelp review. I watched her hand out fines for wind chime violations and scream at the UPS guy for stepping on her stone path. Yeah, she was a real peach. And her husband, Doug. Imagine the human version of a dented beer can, but angrier. It all started when Karen decided to rent out one of her vacant HOA houses for a party, the kind that wakes the dead. Music so loud, it rattled my windows, laughter and shrieks slicing through the silence I'd paid good money for. I tried to let it slide, told myself, maybe they'll tire out, maybe I'll get lucky and it'll rain. But the noise just kept climbing. When I heard glass breaking and a scream that didn't sound like fun, I knew it was time to step in. So there I was, boots on face set, walking through a yard littered with red Solo cups past some poor girl puking into the bushes and right up onto Karen's porch. She opens the door and gives me that, "Oh, it's you," look like I'm the one crashing her party. Doug and his buddies were behind her beer breath and bad attitudes. I asked politely for the record if they could take the party inside or at least turn it down. That's when Doug puffs up and calls me a threat. Before I know it, I've got a face full of knuckles and his two buddies are taking turns kicking the hell out of me. I don't even remember hitting the steps, just the taste of blood and dirt. They left me in a heap, called me a freak, and went back to their party like it was just another Saturday night. Now, maybe most folks would have called the cops or slunk home and locked their doors. But you spend enough time in the military and you learn sometimes you don't call for backup, you are the backup. So I made a couple calls of my own. 30 minutes later, 3 old friends rolled up, guys I trusted with my life, quiet, efficient, and carrying a grudge for anyone dumb enough to swing on one of their own. They didn't need instructions. I pointed to the house, said, "Embarrassment level extreme." They just nodded and slipped away into the night. What happened next? Let's just say the party ended real quick. Screams, bodies, bumping furniture, Doug landing in a flower bed with a thud that probably dislocated something important. By the time the cops rolled in, my buddies were already gone and the house looked like the losing side of a bar fight. Of course, Karen lost her mind, swore up and down. I'd orchestrated a home invasion, called me a vigilante. The cops. They saw a bloodied loner sipping a beer on his porch, face still bruised but unbothered. No proof, no witnesses, no cameras, because surprise HOA policy didn't allow them. They took some statements, shrugged, and went back to their cars. But Karen wasn't about to let things slide. She started a campaign, flyers, urgent compliance notices, even had some HOA rent-a-cops and her clipboard crew show up at my gate with fake legal threats. Doug, still wearing his sling, tried to take another shot at me, but this time I was ready. He swung, I locked his arm, and let gravity do the rest. Karen shrieked about assault, but my security cam, conveniently legal on my side, caught the whole thing. By the time the sheriff showed up, it was an open and shut case. Doug was cuffed, Karen was warned, and I went back to my coffee. If you think Karen gave up, you don't know HOA presidents. She filed lawsuits, posted all over Facebook about my military aggression, tried to get me banned from the local grocery store. The judge threw her claims out so fast you'd think his chair was on fire. She even tried to spin the community against me, calling me a domestic terrorist because nothing says community safety like slander. But I had a twist of my own. Hired a PI ex-FBI ruthless with paperwork. Turns out Karen had turned the HOA into her personal piggy bank, fraudulent contracts, fake safety funds, shady short-term rentals, even a phony veteran charity. I gathered everything and handed it off to the IRS state prosecutors, the whole alphabet soup. Within a week, Karen was being audited. 2 days later, she was on the receiving end of a dawn raid. The HOA board resigned, real estate agents fled, and Karen hauled off in fuzzy slippers, muttering about conspiracy, while the whole neighborhood filmed from their driveways. The Ridgeview HOA collapsed like a bad souffle. Board members lawyered up the bank accounts, froze, property values tanked. And me, I went to the community meeting, just once told them everything, let the silence settle, then turned down their offer to join the new board. I'd pulled the rot, but I wasn't about to argue over pool rules for the rest of my days. You'd think that'd be the end, but some people just don't learn. Doug's old drinking buddies tried to stir up trouble, trash cans, dumped dead rabbits on the porch, even a bullet casing in the mailbox. I tracked them down at a local bar, reminded them that cameras now watched every inch of my property and that I wasn't afraid to finish what we started. Sure enough, when they tried to intimidate me again, the cops arrived before I'd even put my phone down. Both ended up with charges, assault, trespassing, and a little extra for being stupid during an ongoing investigation. Now, a year later, peace finally returned. Karen was convicted, 10 years, no parole. Doug still doing his tough guy act, finally deflated by prison routine. The HOA is history. The neighbors who stayed keep to themselves. No one cares about mailbox colors or how long your grass gets. Even the mailman walks a little lighter these days. Sometimes people ask how I won. Truth is, I didn't set out to win. I just refused to roll over, refused to let petty tyrants make the rules. I had patience, good friends, and a stubborn streak. Now I drink my coffee in the silence I fought for, watching the sun rise over land I earned with more than money. And if anyone out there is thinking about messing with this old Navy guy, well, they'd better check twice, because the fight isn't over, not as long as I'm still standing. So where do you land on all this? Was I right to fight back the way I did? What would you have done if your peace was on the line? Follow the rules or take justice into your own hands? Drop your thoughts below. Argue it out. Because if there's one thing we all need, it's to make sure power never goes unchecked in any neighborhood ever again.